Welcome back. I'm here with Cynthia Revard. CynthiaRevard.com is the website. The book is called Hope for a New Era. As we were talking just before the break, Cynthia, everybody's on a self-discovery, and you talk about the discovery coming from within, so to speak, and that, yes, we do have the world in the condition that it's in. Time for some renovation, earthquakes, tidal waves, tsunamis, oh my gosh. uh, when the earth renovates, it doesn't fool around. It plays for keeps. So, as you were saying in your book, that you were inspired and you were getting this information, channeling the information, if you will, and that some people may or may not, kind of readily accept what you're saying. But all prophets, people who talk about the future, they always stir the pot a little bit, and there's always that pushback. I look at it as the more pushback you get, the greater the importance of what you should
Mhm.
do. So it's kind of like badge of courage. So as you wrote the book, is there anything that is outstanding when you were getting this information? You must have been going through like, wow, that's amazing, or I didn't think of that. Wow, that's this information coming from the divine.
Mm.
Along those lines that you want to share with us today.
There's so much. And if we could talk just a minute, I'd love to get back to the spiritual side, but if we could talk about the environment for a minute, because I was, one of those people that just thought, okay, there's nothing I personally can do about this other than reduce my carbon footprint. I'm not in politics and all of that. So I wasn't as in tune with what was going on as I could have been. And, some of the information shared with me, we had to back into, me, I had to back into and try and go and find statistics to back it up because it was just given to me.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things that astounded me, and, most of your viewers probably already know this, but I was really surprised after 4 decades of talking about global warming and reducing carbon emissions, they still go up every year. The big, congratulations, go us, is about how it's not going up as much as it was a few years ago. It goes up every year. We can't sustain this. We are on a freight train for disaster. So, the other point that was shared with me that I could not verify, scientists are not talking about this yet. So I'll just put it out there. And again, just be open to possibilities and what ifs. What if she really is a clear channel and this is really true? And what's the downside of not paying attention or whatever? And then go within, because it'll either resonate, well, it will resonate because it is truth. And your divine aspect will help you know the truth of it. Um, Basically, the time frame that was shared with me was that if we don't really dramatically turn things around, we could be extinct in 5 years. We could extinct ourselves in 5 years. And that sounds really outlandish, I know. And I will say that divinity's not going to let that happen. They've been working really hard at, well, I don't know if you can say they work hard, but you know what I mean. They are here with us and they are doing things, intervening to slow the progress down of that freight train, so that we don't, because we need time to react. We are not doing enough fast enough. And, we're there, governments and regulators are arguing about things that are going to move the needle 1% when we need to be looking at the 80% reduction to really turn things around. So that surprised me. I share a lot about just tuning in to your own actions as a leader and believing in yourself. And I do talk about subconscious resistance, which we all have, that instinctual programming that makes us think, I need to stay over here and play a little small because I'm not someone that can go sound the alarm and get out the megaphone and make everyone listen. But the important thing, the really important point that I want everyone to get from the conversation about trying to help is that each and every one of us is a leader because leadership is influence, and we all have a sphere of influence at some times or at some places in our life. There are people we have influence over. And if each person would just educate themselves a little bit on whether, and maybe it's not the environment crisis, maybe you really want to get involved in something else that really calls to you and tugs at your heart. Educate yourself on what's already going on and what people are doing, and share it with other people. And the trick here, because there's a lot of denial, especially around climate change, right? There's a lot of people saying it's false news and all of that. The thing you want to do is just be helpful and non-confrontational. Share from your heart, but don't give up, because this is our survival as a species we're talking about. And so I started to say divinity is not going to let that happen, but that doesn't mean it's going to be an easy process for us until we turn things around. We see the escalating extreme weather getting worse and worse and more frequent. And that's all man-made, and that's going to keep happening and getting worse until we take really drastic action. So they're not going to let us become extinct, but we have to co-create this new era, this better world, by showing that we can be responsible stewards of the world we have and take care of it, and take care of each other, take care of our fellow humans. God wants us to love each other and care for each other. And, our purpose in life is to serve others in some way, one person or many. That's our purpose. And as well as, the planet is all God's creation. So,
Well, I kind of think the planet is like a mirror. It reflects us. And with all the emotional upheavals, the wars going on around the world, we're a second or two away from nuclear confrontation. Certainly, we have outrageous loss of life through very, very bad people. The invasion
yeah.
in Europe, the situation in the Middle East being a tinderbox. So I hear you talking, and I'm sure there are many people who would agree with you. And your book says we have to give hope, like, come on, hope's a good thing. So hope for a new era. But, I kind of think that's a little bit further down the road from where we're going right now. I think we have to, it's the old saying, you have to hit rock bottom,
Mm.
start going up. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think we kind of have hit rock bottom. I mean, it feels like it's just going to keep getting worse and worse, but we're at a point where people can and are being kind of shaken to wake up. And I don't mean spiritually. You don't have to believe in God or whatever you call the great creator. You don't have to believe in anything to want to save the planet and give future generations a place, well, us a place to live, in
Yeah.
our lifetime, a place to live. Um, but I wanted to just say, as you talk about just the overwhelm and all of the fear and emotions going on, the best way to address that personally, the personal fear, is one step at a time and tuning in to your inner knowing, your intuition. How can I help? Or what do I need to do next? What's that one next little step I need to take to help, so that you don't get overwhelmed and just stuck in paralysis mode, because that leads to more fear, rather than when you get into action, you have hope and you help create this ripple of other people doing the same thing. There,
Hmm.
there is much hope, but the a couple of other things that I mention in the book, and this is our time to get started. The new era is available to start now, and there's two aspects. I wanted to mention this because there's a lot of confusion about what this even means, this golden future that we have in store for us. There's two aspects. There's the personal aspect of raised consciousness. And then there's the global, creating a world where we nurture humanity and live in love. They're two separate aspects. If we start on the raising our consciousness now, and I'll talk when we have a minute about how that's become more available to us now, because it's time for us to evolve. We start by raising consciousness, it becomes easier to live in those more positive emotions and to have compassion for our fellow humans and the earth, and to make wise, not selfish decisions, maybe hard decisions, but to do the hard things because it's best for humanity. That gets a lot easier when there's more people living with a raised consciousness. Right now, it does feel like you're beating your head against the wall and fighting the fight and not getting anywhere. But it's time, and this raising of consciousness is available to us now.
Well, as they say, pleasure puts us to sleep, pain wakes us up. So here we go through this time of renovation. Okay,
Right.
hold that thought. The book is called Hope for a New Era. This lovely lady is the author, CynthiaRevard.com. Would you spell your website for everybody?
Cynthia, V as in Victor, ARD.com.
We'll be right
Thank you.
back after a short break.